Being a Guardian reader, I can't actually believe I'm about to say this, but Nicolas Sarkozy has a point. Yes, you heard me correctly. He's demanding that border controls for migrants are moved to England, and with it, the so-called jungle refugee camp in Calais. He says refugees that want to claim asylum in the UK should be allowed to cross the Channel so that they can be processed on our soil. The reasons he's saying this now is pretty obvious. He's standing in next year's presidential election and needs the right-wing vote. But post-Brexit, I don't think we've got a leg to stand on. This is how the president of the Calais region put it. The British people have chosen to take back their freedom. They must take back their borders. In other words, we can't have our cake and eat it too.
What would you do, Graham, if that border was an airport? Right, I'm going to put this in your mind, because we don't let anybody fly into the country who haven't got the paperwork. Right, you actually have that rule there. So I just want to know what you'd say to that, first of all.
Well,
as a point of logic.
Yeah, because there's a point of logic that's completely the opposite, in the sense that you don't fly to Spain and get checked by Spanish border patrols when you leave a UK airport. You get checked when you arrive in Spain.
But we are helping man that border. We do have...
Yeah, it's a juxtaposition, isn't it?
OK, so there's two things here. I think bringing in Brexit is a false comparison.
Absolutely.
Because I think, first of all, Sarkozy is putting his position out there, as you say, and he's using what he can to make his point. But I think bringing in Brexit, the agreement that we have, the bilateral agreement we have there, isn't to do with Brexit, it's between France and the UK.
It was signed by Sarkozy himself.
Right. Exactly.
So
that was whilst we were part of the European Union.
But it had nothing to do with it.
No, it's separate.
But it still influenced it. Come on.
It's separate. Of course it's separate.
Open borders in the EU has led to the jungle at Calais.
Okay.
Obviously.
Through Schengen.
Yes.
But we have a situation, we do have very clear rules in place that if you are a genuine asylum seeker, you take asylum at the first point where you want, because it's the clues in the name.
Absolutely.
You don't care where you're going.
Of course.
You need asylum. If you're an economic migrant, it's a completely different scenario. And the French also are in the scenario of having people in their country, on their land, and they have to deal with them, just like we do.
But if you've created a border in another country, we are never going to get the same stress that the French are under in terms of people coming into their country from an asylum-seeking point of view, because they will not arrive on UK soil before they arrive on other European soil.
But I don't understand your argument. Do you want us, as a country, to take back these people? Do you want us to let them all in and then we decide what to do? What do you, as a citizen, what do you want?
We process asylum seekers through that system.
Exactly.
So in the refugee camp that is called the jungle, some of those people would be processed and allowed into the UK.
Yeah.
OK? So what I'm saying is that if we're not part of a European Union solution to this, they have every right to say
no,
that
they don't. No, they don't.
we're going to...
Because these people...
I don't follow this argument at all.
They've arrived in Europe, as Emma says, they've arrived in Europe through probably either Italy or Greece. If anything, they should be rounded up, put on buses and sent back to Italy and Greece. That is where the problem lies.
But if they're claiming asylum, they have to have the right to go through the process of being checked to see whether they qualify for asylum.
The minute they land in Italy, they've made it. Nirvana, I'm there. Boom. They don't need to come to Calais.
Right.
You're meant to claim asylum, as Emma said, in the first country you arrive.
It is very clear.
Yeah, but that's not the reality.
Otherwise
you wouldn't have...
Because we have economic migrants.
But so you're saying that everybody that arrives at that point is an economic migrant?
Well, some will be. They have to be determined. I think a lot more economic
migrants.
There's
7,000 people
in the
refugee camp.
What Graeme is saying is, currently, as it stands, the French, they've been very polite and helpful and allowed us to process our migrants there. Now what he's saying is, if we're no longer part of the European Union, yes, of course, that decision was not made as part of the EU, but obviously it was influenced by it. So if we're not, then obviously we want to be on our own, we want to control everything. That means we process our own migrants.
Let's just take a look at a recent Sky News poll to inform the debate.
It's just fairness.
Let's just see what people are thinking. Here we are, this Sky News poll here. 23% of people said they would be willing for more refugees to move to their local area. At 66%. 66% say they would not. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that they're right.
No, but this has got nothing to do with this. This is the French saying, we don't want to house those people here anymore.
But you have to realise, Graeme, that the result of this would be that more people, almost certainly more people will come and live here, or seek to come and live here.
Well, they would certainly come here to be processed.
Right.
And I think that if you flipped it on its...
And it was this week that we've announced we're building a £2 million, 13-foot-high concrete wall in Calais.
Yeah, exactly.
So you seem to be slightly at odds with the way most people are going.
Well, but why are we doing that? Why do we feel we need to build a 13-foot wall in Calais?
Yeah, because we clearly think the Touquet Agreement is going to dissolve and that we're going to have to process economic and asylum seekers in Calais.
And
just let me separate this out a little bit as well, because not only have you got the refugee camp, but you've also got the border control between France and England. So the French have their border control in Dover, and obviously we have
well for them as well.
It does work well for them as it stands, or to an extent it works well. Clearly it doesn't work that well if they're thinking about building a wall.
Yeah.
But ultimately...
The relationship will change.
If the relationship is changing because of Brexit, which is why I think it is relevant, Brexit is relevant, and we're saying we voted to leave the EU because we want to take back our sovereignty, take back our borders, and deal with immigration on our own terms. Part of that is processing immigration requests and processing asylum seekers. Now, whether they come in by an aeroplane from a country seeking asylum...
Good one, actually.
Well, it is a good one, but that's still a different... I still think that's a different part of the subject, because that proves, whether it's Schengen, where you've got the open border controls, how people are encouraged almost to travel all the way across Europe, what their motives are to come to the French coast and then say, right, why do we want to get to England? But that's a different story, because they think they're going to get a better life, get better looked after over here if they're economic
We've got to
migrants.
depend on Amber Rudd sorting this out with Bernard Cazeneuve, and I don't see this one lasting at all.
What do you mean?
I don't see the agreement that we have a juxtaposed border. The Le Touquet Agreement lasting, because there's so little in this for the French. People
Precisely,
it's not Calais calling, it's London calling. There isn't an exodus of people from England to France. They don't really need the border in Dover.
No, they don't.
We desperately need the border in France.
It's very interesting.
And so they're right to say, you wanted control, take back control, have your border back.
Have your border
in
back.
the run-up to the referendum, I spoke to a French journalist and I said, how is potential of Brexit being reported over there? I won't do a French accent. And he said, we are done with you. You don't want to be part of the euro. You don't want to do what we do with borders. You want everything, have your cake and eat it. We are done. Please go. And if you like, the writing was on the wall a bit then anyway, in terms of the relationship.
Take your border back.
But you agree Schengen is a disaster.
Well, Schengen is not something we've ever been a part of.
No, but that is why these poor souls, once they get to Italy, the whole of Europe is...
It's had unintended consequences, which we can see now because of what's happened in the Middle East.
Which we never signed up to.
And that again, is not something we did ever sign up to. But I think we're at a situation where we're still all waiting to see, when we hear Theresa May say Brexit means Brexit, what Brexit will actually mean. I think there's limited time for her to sort of keep saying that line. But I think in this instance, what we're going to see is world leaders try and use it to their advantage when they are campaigning, and to rip up accords which make sense regardless of whether the UK is in the EU.
Yeah, but they only make sense if you're the beneficiary, as you rightly say. We're the beneficiary of this agreement at the moment. Of course, you've got the convention, the UN Convention for Status of Refugees. There's a European Convention on Human Rights that we're signed up to. That's got to change as well. So I think everything is open for debate. And if I was much to what Nick said about those statistics, if that many people don't want to have a processing place in the UK,
Dover,
you can imagine the French are probably saying the same thing. We don't want a processing place in our...
They've got more room.
OK, attention please.
Well, that's it then.
Right. Because you two are coming up with solutions at the end of everything. Now, class.